I swear to God, it did that earlier.
Didn't do that earlier.
Okay. One team, one podcast back. Here, all right, guys. Before we even get into it, we've already recorded this whole fucking episode once, and I didn't press record. So, if it sounds like we're laughing because we're talking about something again, it's because we're talking about something again. I am here. This is a special episode. We're actually changing things up a little bit. We have Charlie on the ones and twos in the background. He's not on screen. But then we also have Lucas Ragusa from River City's Total Maintenance in New Orleans joining us. He's been on the podcast a few times before, but he's going to go all the way through on this one. And it's going to be again. So I need somebody to buy an AC. If anybody's out there, I need you to buy an AC. No, Lucas is a great friend of mine. We grew up together and knows a lot about football, wants to talk about football. We're going to talk about LSU today with camp going on, but also we're going to jump right into it with Myles Brennan talk. Myles Brennan leaving the team, retiring from football. Lucas, I know you know the situation a little bit, so tell me about your thoughts of him just retiring from football and not like at least transferring somewhere or whatever it is, you know?
Yeah, I mean, first off, thanks for letting me, come on and do this again. There's deja vu the whole time. I feel like I'm in the Matrix. There's a black cat. I saw it twice, so I know that. But now I know what to look for, so that next time this thing's not recording, I can say something. But look, as far as Myles goes, it's disheartening whenever you have a guy that has spent and dedicated that much time to a program. You're talking about a guy that I think still holds the Mississippi passing records for high school.
Yeah.
I think it's something like 11,000 yards a kid threw for.
Brett Favre's records, right?
Yeah, I mean, and of course, it wasn't Brett, but, we all wanted him to do well here. And I think situation being different, possibly he would have. But I know that, I heard some chatter and some different people saying, it just didn't look like he had the juice that you want to see out of your starting quarterback. And if that's the case, and they decided to let him know where he stood. I mean, I think that's good on the coaching staff, and I think it's good on Myles to know that this is the end of the line for him, at least at LSU. And it could be one of these deals, Matt. I mean, he hasn't been able to play in a game in basically 2 years. I could say maybe he steps back from it in 6 months. He feels differently about it, and gives it a go. I was listening earlier today. I think it was T-Bob was talking about Ryan Ramczyk and how Ramczyk had taken time away from the game and then came back and is now one of the top offensive linemen in the entire NFL. I'm not saying that's going to happen for Myles, but this is a dog-eat-dog world. NIL has made this thing more of a business than ever before. And I think if the staff knew that he wasn't going to be the guy, it was better on them to tell him that now and give him the opportunity to maybe try and go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And only time will tell what Myles actually decides he wants to do.
I just pulled up Ryan Ramczyk to see how old he was. He's 28 years old.
Is it 4 years in the league?
Yeah. Well, it feels like he would be way younger than that, right? But I guess it's similar to say if Myles, he still has 1 year under his belt. Say he has a change of heart and he wants to go to wherever, Southeastern or something like that and play a year, get to the NFL. He's going to be around that age too. But yeah, I think it threw everybody off guard as far as the retiring from football. But I think it was a good decision on his part, probably to leave, but leave here no matter what, because you are going to be a third string quarterback. It's pretty set in stone that's the case. The only concerns that I had was that it was going to be basically a safeguard to make sure Walker Howard didn't have to burn a red shirt for some unforeseen situation. But I'm actually, I've had a lot of messages in the group chat about quarterback depth, and they make fun of me about it because last year we sucked at quarterback depth, and we ended up having to play a wide receiver in the bowl game. And I'm trying to make sure that doesn't happen again. But at the same time, I want to get Walker Howard some reps this year. I want to see him play a little bit, like in New Mexico State. Get a couple of like drives or whatever it is. Like you're not burning your red shirt, but at least play a little bit and get ready for next year. Because next year, from all accounts, sounds like that's going to be the battle.
Right.
Daniels is a 2-year guy. You got Nussmeier will be coming back. We would all assume battling with a Walker Howard, who everybody thinks could be the guy. So I think that's going to be interesting to see next year, that situation. And kind of like this is just foreshadowing what could be the epic battle next year, potentially. But what are your thoughts on with him leaving? I think a couple of the reports are Jaden Daniels could be the number one guy. Nussmeier still battling for that position, but both guys are probably going to be playing. What are your thoughts on those guys?
I mean, I think the emergence of Nuss. I think Garrett is the reason that ultimately Myles got pushed out. Because obviously you have a guy like Myles that has the time in the program, even though it's 3 different head coaches and like 5 different offensive coordinators. He's still a veteran of that group, and I feel like that's what this staff felt like they were going to have whenever they got him to come back and compete at LSU. And I think that was part of the conversation that they had with Myles. Look, you're going to go somewhere else and have to compete. Why not just stay home and compete?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's ultimately that's where he wanted to be. I mean, he doesn't want to be anywhere else but LSU, and that's why I find it hard to believe that he'll strap it up in college for anybody else. I think if the guy's going to play ball, he's going to try and get in the league some kind of way, whether that's USFL route, or something along those lines. It's the want to. It's whether or not Myles has that want to. But I think Garrett's had pushed to be, the number 2 at least, if not possibly be the number 1. You have 31 games worth of experience with Daniels. You can't coach that. You can't talk about that. You can't tell that guy what to expect. He's already seen it. Now, he hasn't seen it in the SEC.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we all know what kind of football gets played in the South, and the Pac-10 is just a different brand of it. But he still is played on Saturday nights under the lights, and you can't discount that. So I definitely feel like at this point it's instead of Daniels being the change-up to Myles like we were kind of thinking over the summer,
Mm-hmm.
I think Nuss is going to be the change-up for Daniels.
I agree.
If you get in a situation where you need a guy that can spin it, not to say that Daniels can't, because obviously Daniels can. I think one of the things I read, he's like 65% passer rating at Arizona State. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
So to have that kind of completion percentage and to have played that many meaningful snaps, it'd be very hard for me to see Nuss pushing him, to be the bona fide, starter, if you will. But I definitely feel like, Nuss is going to push him to play, and, iron sharpens iron. We all know that. Not having anybody else would be a problem. And we do. We have 2 guys that are capable. I mean, we didn't get a huge sample size of Garrett last year. He came in, late against Ole Miss when the game was already at hand. And, I mean, he played as good as you could expect a kid that was playing high school football the year before. And so, he's apparently beefed up quite a bit. And, he's been in that film room. Him and his dad have been crushing it since the season ended last year because his dad could recognize the kid actually has a shot, to be a starter in the SEC, this year. So I'm looking forward to seeing, the results on the field and how it plays out there.
It also seems like both of these quarterbacks have like camaraderie with the team. And not that Myles Brennan didn't, but it always seemed like there was a disconnect a little bit with the rest of the guys and how they, react to these guys. And I know, Garrett and Jack Besh, they're friends, and then obviously Walker Howard coming in. He went to school with a lot of these guys, and the 337 guys kind of all stuck together. It feels like even Kayshawn, like it seems like those guys rally around Daniels and Nuss more than they were Brennan the whole time, and that might be just me looking at it from an outsider, but there's just little things that you pick up there. You're just like, I don't know. He's an older guy, Myles, older guy. Probably doesn't relate to the guys quite as well. He's outdoorsman. He likes to go hunting and fishing, stuff like that. Comes from I know it's a Brennan family, but it's not necessarily the Brennans, right?
Correct.
So I think that's a misnomer with Brennan, that he's just
everybody
big
thinks he's
restaurant money. Yeah.
Everybody thinks he's a rich kid, and he is not.
Yeah, he's Dickie Brennan's son or something.
Yeah, he's not. He's a working class kid, and I'm disappointed, but I will never call that kid a quitter. That kid battled every step of the way. I mean, he played against Troy.
Yeah.
And Matt, I still have it on my phone. One of the defensive linemen just absolutely punished one of our guards in that game, and it was like, is this really what we're doing? Is this who we are now? Like, I remember that in 17.
Troy just whipping us up front. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, now listen, Troy's got a bunch of transfers, that didn't make it at other programs that went JUCO and then came to Troy. They've built a nice little program over there, but Troy, that's what we're doing now. And I'll find that video and send it to you because it is appalling. As an offensive lineman, you just look at it and go, oh my God.
Yeah.
He's going the wrong direction, coach.
Well, now we can look at it as like, okay, this is where we were and this is where we are now. Like,
that's right.
Exactly.
And the bad thing is there's a guy that started on the national championship team that was getting abused that night.
Okay. Yeah, that's not good.
It's ugly.
Yeah, send that to me. I'd love to see that.
Yeah.
Okay, so with the quarterback race the way it is, and this is kind of one of my thoughts, was you're going with a guy like Daniels, probably because of his mobility, and the thought process would be that our offensive line, which we're just talking about it, is probably one of the weaknesses of this team, especially on the offense. True freshman left tackle.
D tackle at center.
Yep. You got a couple of spots there that you're working out guys, but they're so young. They're so young, and they don't have the continuity yet. Now, and I feel like a broken record because I said this earlier, but Brian Kelly is to me like an offensive line whisperer. Like the guy knows how to get offensive linemen to the league. Like he knows how to develop these guys and have like a continuity. They don't have the continuity yet, but I want to see that get developed. And I feel like we haven't had a developer as a head coach in a long time. And we have that now. So some of my fears on the offensive line may be true, but they also may work themselves out during the year. Is kind of what I'm thinking. Like they're going to get just better and better and better.
I have a ton of confidence in Brad Davis. And I think as his guys, the people that he sees on the recruiting trail and brings in, because this is only his second year. It was the only coach retained.
Right. Really, I mean, a year and a half. Like he was hired like in the spring of last year.
Was it even the spring?
It wasn't the spring. It was Memorial Weekend. Memorial Weekend, he was hired.
Because we fired the other guy, right? Or the other guy
resigned. James Craig.
Because of recruiting violations.
Mm-hmm.
And so I definitely feel like, we saw the progression last year. The line was shit paper in the very beginning of the year. And then they did get better. They were not world beaters, but we were beat up by the time the end of the year came. But they got to where they had established some offense and what they could do, with that offensive line. And so I definitely feel like they will get better, and that he is going to get every bit of talent onto the field, Brad Davis, that is, that he can get. We were both offensive linemen. We know how critical that part is. The offensive and defensive lines, it's where the Kings walk, and it is the most important position groups on an entire staff, as far as I'm concerned, because you can't do anything without either one of those lines being good. Not at least championship football. And so, I definitely feel like they're going to get better in that position. At the rate that Kelly is able to recruit, everybody got on him about that little draw he had at that basketball game.
Family.
I definitely think that's just how it is. I think you had a cross of that East Coast, Boston, and it just stretched out on him. And, everybody wants to make fun of him, but I'm not laughing because he's sure bringing them in.
Well, you also, like, it's been the commonplace to make fun of LSU football coaches, right? Like, so you got to add him to the list somehow if you're a national guy. Like,
dude ain't gonna
there have been laughing stock.
He ain't gonna eat grass on the sideline.
No,
I can promise you. And
he will yell at somebody.
Yeah, and I heard today he was yelling quite a bit because I think we rolled a couple of snaps back, and but that's what you got to have in a coach, somebody that can poke his head in that room, and the staff coaches that are in those rooms don't go, what the hell is that guy doing in here? He doesn't belong in here.
You know what else he was yelling at somebody about? You'll like this. They were signaling in the plays too late.
Oh yeah.
So he ate them alive, and I was like, "Oh, I love that." We hadn't had a guy do that in forever.
In 17 years, you didn't have the clock.
They didn't even know what was going on.
Bro, it was so despicable. When you got in a close game late in the game, especially under Les Myles, you didn't know what was going to happen. Tennessee, Auburn, all of these, Ole Miss, these games that, any coach worth his salt knows what to do. And any 40-year-old that's played Madden for 20 years can understand clock management.
Yeah.
And they just didn't have it. And thankfully, I think Ed had somebody else kind of in his ear saying, hey, coach, you might want to think about a timeout here. And so he was able to cover it up. But, I just think this is a different caliber of guy that we have pulling the strings. And I'm really looking forward to the future of the program and how good it can be. I mean, we all expected that it can be this dominant year after year program because of the talent that we have in this state. And now I feel like you have somebody, because look, Kelly's not going to the NFL. There's not another program that's going to come get him like we did. I mean, that was a shock. And I cringed whenever, I saw the announcement. But about 15 minutes after that, I was like, you know what? We just went and stole the guy that is coaching at one of the most storied programs in the history of the game.
Yeah.
That's impressive. Not everybody can do that.
No Notre Dame coach has ever voluntarily left Notre Dame.
One.
Who was that?
Like the 40s. I don't know, but it's one.
Oh, I'm looking it up. I'm looking it up, Lucas.
Don't hear you. We'll say it now. Just letting you know, there was one guy left sometime in the 40s or 50s after Newt Rockne type deal.
He left for the war. The Great War.
Possibly so. He left for another job, and it was comical. It was kind of like whenever LSU's coach left in 58 or 59 for Army. It's like, right. What? So, but, I think that LSU is on the right track. They got the right guy that understands process and understand what needs to be done in order to have a win.
Well, yeah, and I was kind of skeptical of this hire, obviously, too. And everybody at the time wanted this hot shot Lincoln Riley hire or whatever. But looking back on it now, and you're just seeing okay, the processes that he's put in, the organization that he's had to put in because there was none when he took it over. Like he's just the perfect guy for the job. Like I don't not this is exactly what we needed. All right, before we get into any more, tell us a little bit about River City's total maintenance because I know you're busy as all get out. You were fielding calls in between our last podcast that was an hour ago. You were fielding calls. Is it another somebody else with an AC down?
Yeah, a little bit of that. Just
Okay.
had to line some guys out, but yeah, proud to be a partner in the show. I've been with you pretty much from the beginning. Whenever you
Mm-hmm.
decided that this is what you wanted to do, I knew it was a good fit because you are such a nerd when it comes to statistics and game analysis and everything else. Like how you said earlier, your fear for the program and what I'm trying to stop is
What
not
I'm
having
trying to,
enough.
I said, I
Yeah,
know, I caught me
you
saying
did.
that. Like,
You
what do I
said it.
have? Do I have any
Yeah,
control over
no,
what happens?
you're
No.
just the dopey face podcast guy. That's who you are, and will forever be known as that. The triple X and the T-shirt. I need your face on it, and
Yes.
that would
All
be
right.
great.
Yeah.
Might wear that September 4th. But yeah. So River City's total maintenance. I know that the crowd that listens to your show is mostly in the Baton Rouge market. I'm a Baton Rouge guy, born and raised, and after Katrina, we saw an opportunity to expand into the New Orleans market, and we did. And so I've been here since the storm, since Katrina. It's crazy because prior to the storm, I had been to New Orleans probably 5 or 6 times. The same reason that anybody else comes. You go to Bourbon Street and you think, that is New Orleans. And fortunately, given the opportunity that we had to come here and build our brand, it's a lot different for me now. I feel a part of the city. 98% of the employees, team members, I guess is the best way to say that, are New Orleans residents. They're from here. They grew up here, and we do a great job in the client service end of things. We're full service heating and air company, but we also do electrical, plumbing, and generator service and install.
Mm.
And we kind of give everybody a one-stop shop, somewhere that they can have a group of guys and the continuity in the service that they're expecting to have throughout all the facets of things that can go wrong in their house. And for years working in the Baton Rouge area, I get an air conditioner fixed, and man, you guys don't do ceiling fans, do you? And no, we don't do ceiling fans. Or you don't do garbage disposals, do you? No, we don't do that. You got to do. Do you have a guy? And it's hard to recommend somebody because those are the guys that wind up burning your reputation because
Yes.
they don't do things like you do. Well, in our world, the client is first, the technician is second, and the company is third. And
Mm.
we have had tremendous success doing that. Our Baton Rouge office, River City's 1 hour, is one of the best in the country as far as what they do. And we do a lot of what they do, and we do a lot of what they don't do. But we are proud to be associated with that brand of service that we love to provide, and I'm happy to be a part of the fabric of both the cities.
Yeah. Ragusa's just run the AC market in Louisiana, basically.
Yeah, pretty
It's
much.
just Ragusa's
We're
everywhere.
the,
Yeah.
we're the coolest people you can know. Had to do it. I couldn't help it.
All right, let's get back to it. We just talked a little bit about offense, but offensive line was our question mark. Not a question mark would be wide receiver.
No, no,
We are
you got
loaded.
studs over there, man.
I was watching some tape today of Dre Jenkins, Brian Thomas Jr., Chris Hilton, and none of those guys are like top three in our. I mean, we got you got Booty and you got Neighbors, Jack Besh. You're just freaking loaded, just absolutely loaded. Kyron Lacey, like a guy coming in who's still going to play. I mean, you're seven deep right there. Um, and they're all really good, and they all have a lot of potential. You would just you would just hope right now that our offensive line is just serviceable to where you got a quarterback that can get them the ball. Just get some guys in space and get them the ball. What are your thoughts on, I guess, the wide receivers and the running backs in that, for that matter, and the kind of athletes that we have that you can put in space?
I mean, I think that's the biggest reason for wanting a quarterback that's mobile is recognizing that you have some weakness on the offensive line. You have to be able to move the pocket and make plays when there's not plays that are apparent. And, I definitely feel like if you had studs on the offensive line, maybe you have a different battle at quarterback.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't even bring a guy like Daniels in. But I think, Kelly kind of recognizing where he was with the roster at the time that, he came in and kind of saw what he was having to do, not knowing exactly what was going to happen with the portal, starting to try and get guys in here to fill the holes that he had. I think he recognized pretty early, and he's, throughout his history at Notre Dame, I mean, he always had a guy that could move a little bit and could sling it. Ian Book hasn't looked great for New Orleans, but, when he was in college, he was very serviceable, and that was because he had legs. He could move. He could run. He could tuck it and get 5-7, pick up a first down, keep a drive alive. And I think that's what Kelly is thinking about whenever he's thinking about the future of this program and where it's going to go. And you brought him here to win and win now. This dude goes 6-6. This fan base, they will eat him alive. He can't afford to do that. He can't afford to go 7-5, though that's a real possibility with the schedule that he has. I mean, he's got to be 8-4, 9-3, this year. And if he can get to 10-2, as we said in the podcast that wasn't recorded,
doesn't exist.
You give him the coach of the year because we had 39 guys playing the bowl game that were on scholarship last year. This guy came in and got 15 guys out of the portal or something like that in order to build a competitive roster. And, all indications from all the national pundits is this is the most talented roster the guy's ever had. What's he going to look like in 2 years?
Right. I mean, he's stacking guys. I mean, he's stacking recruits right now. They're going to be top 5. I mean, they got a couple of guys. We're going to get to a recruiting update in a second, but they got a couple of guys coming in that haven't announced yet that another 5-star offensive lineman that they could be having. So, yeah, they're going to have a very loaded roster. And then you look at, so not only are like wide receivers skill positions, you got offensive linemen that are stepping in that are a true freshman left tackle. You got a true freshman, probably right guard that could be playing here soon. You got guys on the defensive side that when you see a guy like Harold Perkins running around, Quincy Wiggins and guys like that, he came in, Kelly had to come in and create an organizational chart, first of all, like who reports to who. Then he actually got some of these guys to come on campus. And so you see that entire job that he did, and you still see the freak level of athletes that we still have on our roster. It's unbelievable. I was just seeing somebody on Twitter earlier talking about an Auburn fan talking about Auburn, if they can get past Penn State and then they get to us and it's 4-0 and we're 4-0 and we go to Jordan-Hare Stadium, there's no way that Auburn loses to LSU. And I'm thinking, you have no idea what's on our roster. You have no idea.
No. And we know, based off what we're accustomed to seeing as far as the athletes that play at this college, and the amount of talent we have pumped in the NFL the last 15 years, that we're always going to have dogs. You're always going to have the Jimmies and Joes that can make plays.
But we know what it looks like. So if I see a practice video, I'm like, yeah, that guy's one of those guys. Like, you know what I mean?
Well, and I just feel like, the direction, you said the organizational chart. That probably hadn't been said in Baton Rouge in 17 years.
Yeah.
Because there's one thing we can all agree on, unless Myles was not organized at all. And maybe Ed did a little better job with that because he was at least smart enough to know when he wasn't smart at
Mm-hmm.
something, and let's put somebody in that position that can actually do that for me. And I think that's why he had the ultimate success that he had in 19 is that whole thing just came together. The roster came together, the quarterback, you have
Staff.
a freak, a future Hall of Famer potentially at quarterback who's a guy that, 100 years ago would have been leading guys in an army to war. I mean, he's
Right.
just that mentality. And, I feel like we are in a great situation with an outstanding coach, somebody that actually gets it and understands that the process is what is important in
Mm-hmm.
having success at this level. And I think we're going to see that, and I think we see that starting this year. I think, you know, as we said already, 8-4, 9-3. If they go 10-2, I think you have to really bow your head to this guy and say, look, you did something that hasn't been done.
Yeah.
Just the amount of talent that he brought in through the portal alone is unprecedented, and probably something we won't see again because he'll have a bunch of guys ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like Nick does in Tuscaloosa. He's always got guys right behind them that are as good as what the starters were when they came in, that just need that opportunity in order to excel.
Well, so I was looking a couple days ago at Michigan State. That was an example. That was, I think, the COVID year. They went 2-5. That crazy Big Ten schedule. 2-5. Mel Tucker takes over.
Yep.
Uh, they go 11-2 last year. They rehauled their entire roster, brought in all these transfers. Kenneth Walker, their running back from a TCU. They moved a whole bunch of guys around. That's something that can happen here, like legit happen here. I mean, you're talking, we were 6-7 last year, and you could be 9-3, possibly 10-2 if everything falls correctly. Yeah, I think 8-4 could be. I don't know. I hate to say ceiling, but or basement, but I don't know. I just can't see us losing more games on the schedule. And we talked. I had the schedule up on the screen. I mean, we had looked at it before. I you know the games that used to worry me would be at Auburn and at Florida, and both of those look like wins to me. Mississippi State, we didn't talk about that one earlier, but Mississippi State, I mean, we handled Mississippi State last year, and if you just play everybody back on Mike Leach on Mike Leach offense and keep everything in front of you, you're going to beat that team. And I'm hoping the coaching staff is smart enough to see that because ours was last year. Tennessee, Ole Miss, Alabama are all three teams that I would be more worried about just because they score. Their offense is typically really, really, really good. So can you keep up with them as they score? But all three of those are at home.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the schedule doesn't bother me until you get to Tennessee.
Yep.
The Tennessee game, hopefully that game is at night.
It 5-0 at night with Tennessee coming in.
it'd be
Yeah.
raucous. It'd be it'd
Yeah.
be it'd be a very good one, and I think as we stated before, you get a quarterback, and I don't know what Tennessee schedule's like leading up to that, but I think that's their first real test.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm not mistaken, when does Tennessee play Alabama?
Uh, third Saturday in October every year. So that would be the Ole Miss weekend,
Okay,
or Florida weekend, one of those. Yeah.
yeah, probably the Florida would be the third weekend in October. So,
Yep.
um, I feel like they could legitimately go into the Florida game 6-0. Florida doesn't scare me. I do believe Napier is a good coach, and I think he'll
Yeah.
do good things at Florida. As much as they disgust me, they have like the ugliest uniforms I've ever seen, and are the least classiest team in the SEC. I think we can all agree on that.
Florida. As
Yeah,
far as like fans, you mean?
fans, team,
Yeah.
what they did with the burnt cat. The year that
Oh
Mike
yeah.
had cancer. That shit pissed me off. I
The
ain't gonna lie.
skeleton cat.
what they did with was that the same year that we had to move the game to LSU because of they had a hurricane or something. They tried to put the
Uh,
game off because they had a bunch of D linemen that were hurt and were trying to
yeah,
get it postponed. Or I can't wait to this. These two Big 12 teams come into the SEC so that we can change the schedule up. So sick of having to play Florida every year. The locked in East opponent that just sucks.
yeah,
That should have died in the '90s. But I do appreciate a good rivalry, and it's the funny thing about LSU. Back in the day, it was LSU Ole Miss that was supposed to be the rivalry. Well, now I feel like we have just as much of a rivalry with Auburn, with Florida, with Bama. Obviously, Ole Miss is one that is maybe recreated with Lane over there, doing what he's doing.
mhm.
But we didn't have one. We had like four. They tried to make Arkansas it. That wasn't
No.
it. And
Yeah, I think the only thing with Arkansas is that they don't have a natural rival either, like we do. Like we don't, I should say. Um, but A&M's got Texas, so when Texas comes over, that's their rival. Ole Miss, you mentioned, like that's Mississippi State. You
right,
know, Tennessee tries to make Alabama a rival, but Alabama sees Auburn as their rival. So maybe it's Tennessee. Tennessee's the one that's the odd man out.
I don't know. I mean, I definitely feel like Alabama at least respects LSU enough that in Dixieland Delight, they got
Yeah,
a
they
little,
added us.
yeah, they have a little shout out to LSU and Tennessee. And when I
Well,
saw that the other day, I was like, well, at least they recognize that of the group. And I mean, look, Saban hadn't forgot. His bye week is before LSU and has been every year that he's
it's
been
what I was
there.
about to say. He's never going
He
to change that
knows.
either. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, he knows even on a down year that
Yep.
his team can get their ass kicked by LSU
That's right.
because of the talent they have on the roster. And I think as Kelly tightens that fence around LSU and it becomes harder for Nick to come in and get that talent, those O
Hmm.
linemen from West Monroe that he likes to come in and pluck, as more of those guys stay home in order to play for a guy that has processes similar to,
Hmm.
I think that thing, ramps itself back up because I don't see Nick stopping. He doesn't have anything else in his life. He's damn sure not going fishing.
No.
So he's going to coach until he can't coach
He's
anymore.
like a Bear Bryant, Joe Paterno. Like like when he
Bobby
retires,
Bowden,
it's
yeah,
probably like six months later. He's gone.
yeah, yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, what did Bear make it? Like 3 months, I
Yeah.
think is what he made it after his last game.
Hmm.
And look, he's the best that's ever done it. There's no question in my eyes. He's better than Bear. He's better than anybody else. And had he stayed in LSU, we'd be 9 or 10 deep right now
Yep.
in national championships. I don't think anybody can deny that. I've done the math. We win every one that he's won at Alabama, plus the one he beat us in 11. So
Yeah.
if you do the math with the other ones that we were able to win outside of him, I think it's pretty easy to say that he would have established us as a dynasty 3 times over had he stayed. And you now have a guy in the driver's seat that is not Nick Saban, but
Hmm.
he talks the same, he acts the same. His programs have been reliable and good programs. He just hadn't had the talent. I mean, and for the
Right.
national pundits to say this is the most talented roster he's ever had, and he threw this roster together in the last 6 months is pretty strong.
I agree.
In what we're going to be able to accomplish here at LSU.
Speaking of really strong, look at that jawline, Lucas.
I mean, dude, that dude
Uh,
just looks like he could kick a 45-yarder to beat Walker at any moment.
Patrick Michelson at Bank of England Mortgage, another friend of ours, doing some really good things at BOE Southern States. Patrick is the area branch manager over there. So give Patrick Michelson a call. 225-810-1805. He will take care of any of your mortgage or loan needs. Also, if you go to their website, boeSouthernStates.com, you can use their Fast App feature and you can apply online. Let them find the options for you after you apply. So give Patrick a call. Great friend of the show. We appreciate him. Also, he's the audio sponsor for all of our podcasts. So we appreciate Patrick and BOE, Bank of England. Okay, so we talked a lot about offense. We talked about Brian Kelly, obviously. Defensively, what are your thoughts right now of the defense? Because I am trending upwards as far as what I think the defense is showing us.
I think LSU defense is always in the position with the players to be, top 5, top 10 in the country. Anytime you just line them up. 2020 being the exemption. But I think a lot of that can be due to not having a spring, due to not, being able to get to know who the guy is. And, that guy, Pelini, was a screamer. Maybe you can't scream at these kids the same way you could, 15 years ago whenever he was doing it. But at the same time, I think our defense will always, be competitive. Obviously the secondary was of great worry, and I think that's where he did a lot of work in the portal, getting some guys in that could compete. The kid from McNeese apparently has put on some more weight, and is pushed to be the starter. And I think the kid from Ohio State is kind of who he bumped out.
Seven Banks has been a little hurt. I don't know if he's all the way back yet, but yeah, Colby Richardson looks like he's the guy that stepped up, which is surprising, obviously, just because he's from McNeese. It sounds like he's a guy that has followed Frank Wilson around. So when Frank Wilson came over here, that was the guy that they had pinpointed to come over. But yeah, he put some weight on, and he could be opposite of Bernard Converse. But then you talked about a couple other guys that came in from the portal, Greg Brooks and Joe Faucha, two guys from Arkansas that are seniors. So we actually lost Dwight McLaughlin to Arkansas, but then we got Greg Brooks and Joe Faucher from Arkansas. So we did a little 2-for-1.
True. Yeah, it's kind of was a crazy deal whenever that happened. Like we're swapping. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, we lost Eli Ricks at the same time. It was like you lost two guys, you got two back. Eli Ricks is apparently a problem over at Alabama right now. So,
a problem in what way?
There's something about how he needs to understand the culture here at Alabama, and that he maybe was like feeling a little bit entitled because he thought he was the superstar coming in, and now he's at Alabama and he's surrounded by fucking superstars. I think that might be what is the culture shock that he's going through right now.
I mean, the kid's obviously going to have a shot to play at the next level. I mean, he did
for sure.
Pretty great things here.
Put him on an island. Yeah.
But you would figure that you would just kind of be quiet and hide and watch their process. But I mean, imagine the difference of going from an Ed Ogeron coach team to Nick Saban.
Yeah.
Like that's a huge difference. We'd mentioned this in the podcast that wasn't recorded about how it's just off in the space.
It's in the cloud. It's in the cloud.
Yeah, about how an invisible cloud that will never be seen. About how different it was for players that played for Nick Saban and then played for Les Miles. The difference there. And so, this kid comes, Ricks leaves a program that was kind of in disarray in the madness that was Ed after divorce and national championship, to, this well-scripted, well-versed, organized machine that is in Tuscaloosa. And trying to belittle that at all, to somebody like me or you is just kind of shows your ass as far as what you don't know about this game and how it's played.
Right.
Good luck to Eli. I hope Booty puts him on his ass and burns him. Actually, I hope he's a second string guy and then realizes, I better go to some team in California. Maybe he goes plays for USC next year. How many years does Ricks have left?
I think he is
should have 2 left, right?
Yeah, I think he would be a junior this year and then a senior next year. And I don't know what COVID means for all that, but yeah, I think his plan was he was going to go to Alabama this year and probably go pro.
Right.
I would assume so. But okay, so defensive line completely loaded. You know, one thing that we haven't talked about is Matt House coming from Kansas City. He also coached for Kentucky in the SEC as a defensive coordinator back in the day with Mark Stoops. You know, I don't know exactly what his schemes are, but it sounds like um, it's not only just man to man like traditional LSU, but it's also not like some kind of soft zone either. It's very multiple, um, not all just attacking, and just kind of like a really like a pro style defense.
Situational football, right?
Yep.
I mean, that's what you need, and I think Kelly, kind of has control over some of that. Obviously, we'll have to see what he does with his coordinators, how he lets them, run the game and everything on those lines. But all I want is aggressiveness when it's time to be aggressive, and when it's not time to be aggressive, I want to know the difference.
Right.
When I watch the game, I want to know that they know the difference as a coaching staff, because obviously if you line the 11 guys up that we're going to strut out there and tell them go after the ball, they're going to do that. But there's times where you can't do that. And not to discount Florida State at all, because I know they're pretty bullish on what they have going on over there this year. I think the reason why we all kind of chalk that up as a win is their history the last 5 years and just how poor that program has been. That we feel like, I don't know, I'm thinking like 27-13 type ball game, something where LSU possibly stretches it out late. But it is going to be a test. I mean, that's I think they will have already played a game. And so this will actually be their second game, and it's our first game. No cupcake to start the year. But I think that's good for us and where this program needs to go, because we kind of get to see where we're at pretty quick.
Yeah, I think also with Florida State coming into the Superdome, I think that's another thing was just like they're walking into a just nightmare situation for them.
Yeah,
But
it's going to be an 80-20 split in the crowd. It's going to be LSU loud. It'll be.
when's the last time we lost in the Superdome? Well, never mind. I'm not even. I don't even want to. I don't even know why I even asked it. I've had too many whiskeys. All right, moving on.
They got to bring up bullshit, Matt.
Yes, I don't know why I did that. I was thinking like maybe it was a Tulane in '82. I didn't know what I was thinking. All right, so defensive backs, we talked about them a little bit. What I thought it was going to be a concern, but it turns out it's probably more like a strength at this point because you have a lot of seniors. It feels like they're bringing a lot of leadership onto the field. I'm again another testament to Brian Kelly bringing in all these dudes that you just like. You've turned a complete weakness into a positive, like immediately. So that's kind of what I've taken away from a little bit of this is like some of these weaknesses being positives now. What are your thoughts on like a defensive backfield? We talked about it a little bit with some of these guys coming in, but what are you thinking?
I mean, obviously, until you see them play, I'll know better after the first quarter.
I know, yeah.
I like the fact that they were able to bring in some guys that are obviously going to compete this year, and were needed this year. I think anytime you put that kind of onus on, look, we need you to compete, we need you to play, we need you to be ready. I think you're going to have kids that are hungry to prove themselves. Like this kid out of McNeese, what's his name again?
Colby Richardson.
This kid Richardson, I think he kind of has something to prove because he probably feels left out, that he didn't get more D1 looks. And now he has an opportunity, or large D1 programs. Now he has an opportunity to play at the highest level in the best conference, in the league. So I think he's got something to prove. Now, hopefully he doesn't try and jump routes and gets pump faked out of his cleats.
Right.
And, they go over the top on him. But I mean, I'm confident in House. I'm confident in Kelly that they're going to have the guys in the right position. I just feel like Ed's process and Les's process is let the athletes make plays, and my hope is that with this coaching staff, they're able to make sure the guys get in the right position. And I mean, when I was coaching my son in little league, one of my mentors had taught me, assign a line. I'm gonna provide the assignment and the alignment. You're gonna provide the hit and hustle.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just feel like they will have the guys in the right position to be able to make plays. I'm super confident in this staff, man. I just like the
I
hires and who they brought in.
I'm with you as far as I need to see it, and here's why. I feel like I am emotionally scarred because of one game, and it's the Mississippi State game, the beginning of 2020, when I had all these expectations of what this team was going to look like, and it was brutal. Like it was like a
It's
come to
hard to watch.
Jesus. It was a come to Jesus of like, oh my God, like it's like that. So yes, I'm with you where it's like it's always going to stick with me if I really need to see something, especially like on the defensive side. Like I got to see what you're doing first before I get like really really happy about what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna get to the dog of the week in just a second, but first we're gonna talk about Fred's in Tigerland, oldest bar in Baton Rouge as far as college bar, staple in Baton Rouge. Drink specials every night. They're also a concert venue, guys. So the bridge is now open in Tigerland to go visit over there. You don't have to go all the way around like you used to. But it's just in time for football season. Best screwdrivers in the world. They are the official tailgate sponsor of One Team One Podcast. So we appreciate Nay and Harry and all those guys over there. Go check out Fred's in Tigerland. Okay, so dog of the week. This is going to be an LSU pick this week. So Lucas, your dog of the week. Who you got?
Are you ready for this?
I'm ready. I think I heard it already.
Be surprised.
Okay, I'm
Because
gonna act surprised. I'm gonna act surprised.
are you ready?
Yes.
My dog of the week is Brian Kelly.
What?
Is that crazy? I mean, am I stiff on Kelly or
I
what?
was surprised first.
Yeah, it was great earlier,
We
but
had a great podcast.
no, I definitely feel like for me it's Brian Kelly because of what he's done on the recruiting trail in such a short amount of time, locking up this in-state talent, bringing in guys that are gonna, they're the future dogs. They're the guys that we'll be watching for the next 3 or 4 years and make plays in the purple and gold. And
Yeah.
the fact that they were so highly recruited by all these other powerhouse programs and they decided to stay home, I think says a lot for the parents and the students, seeing this thing is getting ready to get going in a direction that it hasn't been like since 2004, whenever Nick left.
Mm-hmm.
The talent in the state, puts you in the position every 4 or 5 years that you should be able to compete for a national championship. Saban was coming and taking 4 or 5 guys a year, out of the state. And those guys were going and having great success at Alabama. You keep those guys home, you wind up having more success here. And put somebody around them that understands the process and the organizational fortitude to put the kids in the best position to have success both on and off the field. I think you wind up with an excellent product. And I can't wait to see how he closes out the 23 class. I think he's got 5 or 6 more left to sign.
Mm-hmm.
But you got a quarterback, you got some receivers, you got a defensive back, which we're talking about. You're going to lose 5 or 6 of those guys next year, either timing out or going on to the league. He's doing what I think needs to be done in order to build a successful year after year program here at LSU. And I'm looking forward to seeing exactly where he takes us.
I like it. I wasn't expecting Brian Kelly, so I think that was a very good dog of the week. My dog of the week is freshman left tackle Will Campbell, and when Will Campbell came in to fall camp, he had a couple of altercations with Allie Gay, fifth year senior Allie Gay, defensive end, and there was one time where Allie Gay put his hands on Campbell in a locking him up, and I think one of his hands slipped up and went up to his face mask, and Will Campbell pushed him off and said, "No, you're not going to do that fucking shit to me." Freshman left tackle stepping up to a fifth year senior saying, "Nah, you're not going to fucking do that to me." So he's probably earned so much respect over that altercation, I would assume. So,
Well, as long as he's able to back it up and get the best of Allie,
yeah,
2 out of 5 plays at this point,
yes,
to where everybody knows, okay, he's not just talking shit; he can actually back this up.
right. And it sounds like
that's critical.
He's the real deal, which having a true freshman left tackle in the SEC just doesn't happen very often. So, usually it used to be just only Alabama recently that have had those guys who just were staples as true freshmen. Cam Robinson comes to mind. Anyway, DJ Fluker, guys like that. So you just don't see it very often. So that was my dog of the week. All right, so let's talk about Bocock Brothers Cigars, bocockbrothers.com. Habanero, Connecticut, and Maduro selections. They do cigar rolling events, golf gear. Love my guys over at Bocock Brothers. Go check them out. They're LSU grads, so they would love your business. Bocock Brothers Cigars. Okay, so we have the recruiting update. We need to talk about recruiting. You touched on it just a second ago with Brian Kelly. Just got Ricky Collins from Woodlawn. And Woodlawn is loaded this year, by the way. They have another guy, Jacoby sorry, did I get that wrong? Jacoby Matthews? Jordan Matthews. Jordan Matthews. He's a defensive back at Woodlawn. He just committed to Tennessee, but there's talks that he could actually flip to LSU by the end of it all. You also got Shelton Sampson from Catholic. We've both seen him play. Super fast, smooth wide receiver. Should be a guy that can come right in and obviously, like, we're a loaded wide receiver staff, but I think he's a guy that really fits the mold of LSU wide receivers. Kai Preen over at St. James is another wide receiver. Another guy that honestly, that guy, I've seen video of him. It's like a poor man's Justin Jefferson a little bit out of high school. Feels like that.
Remember, Justin was a poor man, Justin Jefferson, coming out of high school.
Yes, I know.
He's top 5 in the NFL right now.
I know.
Every chance he gets.
Feels like one of those. It feels like one of those. I know he's St. James, but one of those almost like Destrehan kind of kids, where it's just like they're just super athletic and smooth, and yeah, only guy. It just feels like these guys that you just only get in Louisiana. But you also have Kylan Jackson out of Zachary that we just got as another safety. And like we were saying, you need to really load up on these defensive backs this year. So Jordan Matthews, I think everybody from Woodlawn better get ready because LSU is probably coming full steam for him, even though he's already committed to Tennessee. Lance Hurd, the offensive tackle, 5-star that looks like he's going to pick LSU probably in 2 weeks. I think he said right before his season starts. It sounds like a lot of these guys are trying to get it out of the way this year. They're trying to commit early before the season starts. And I was always wondering how that was going to affect things with early signing day, if they wanted to do that ahead of time. I'm not seeing a lot of these guys like that used to just wait all the way till the end like they used to. And I think that's probably a good thing. It helps you develop your roster better, it feels like to me. So LSU's kicking ass right now. I saw a Texas A&M message board saying LSU is bending us over right now. So I love seeing that kind of stuff, especially with last year when they had the best class ever. LSU basketball. LSU basketball is got a guy named Corey Chest. Just came in for LSU basketball, top player in the country, top player in Louisiana for 2023. So Matt McMahon's doing a lot of work too for basketball. So that is the One Team One podcast recruiting update, and it's actually sponsored. Lucas, you don't even know it's actually sponsored by River City's Total Maintenance. So we appreciate you for sponsoring that. So I'll send you the bill. I'll send you the bill. No worries. All right, before we get to our last topic, we want to talk about Brandon Lejean over at Courtesy Automotive Group. Helped me out with a Jeep recently, so we appreciate Brandon. Give him a call, 337-224-1867. They're based in Lafayette, but they can deliver cars to you. He'll work through things over the phone with you. He even gave me some DocuSign docs, took care of it all from the Lafayette area all the way to Baton Rouge. So give Brandon a call. Big LSU basketball fan, so give him a call. He would love to talk to you about it. All right, so let's talk Saints. I know you want to talk Saints.
Yeah, I do. I want to talk Saints.
All right, I've never been the biggest Jameis Winston fan. That's from Florida State days. Obviously, I think he was good. But yeah, I think a lot of things always rub me the wrong way with Jameis. I know he's matured somewhat. I'm just still, it's like in the back of my head, is he going to throw a lot of picks again? It's my only concern about the offense, to be honest with you. I think everything else is in place to where this should be lightning. A fantastic offense. I think the defense is probably going to be better than it was last year. That's my only, like literally my only concern is Jameis going to be the mature Jameis, or is he going to be throwing it all around and making dumb mistakes?
I agree with that, but I think the high point, obviously Saturday night, was the Red Rocket. You don't have a guy that has been 12 years in the league that you should not be overly confident in that if something happens with Jameis or he does start throwing them up, that you can't bring this guy in and be really, really good.
Yeah, best backup in the league.
Easily the best backup in the league.
I know. It's another
if it weren't for the fact that Jacksonville spent that pick on Lawrence, I could definitely see him having another starting opportunity somewhere else. Now I realize, where was he? He was Chicago last year. That was kind of a rough situation.
Yeah.
It was Dallas the year before that. And did they bring him in after Dak got hurt in Dallas in 20? Something along those lines.
Yeah.
And they didn't, that Dallas's offense never has really scared me all that much. And I'm quite high on Dak Prescott. I like Dak a lot. I like him as a person. I do like him as a quarterback as well. But Andy Dalton took our number one wide receiver from last year, who's going to be probably your number 4 this year, and a couple of other guys that you don't see play all that much. And it was against Houston, but he commanded the offense. He was able to put the ball where it needed to be put. I'm not at all worried about what happens with the quarterback position because of Andy. I do think Jameis has got more talent. It's pretty well recognized that until the age of about 25, 26 years old, your brain is not fully developed. And I know there'll always be questions about Jameis's brain and whether or not it'll ever develop. He's not real good on the microphone, but at the same time, he's an incredible athlete. I mean, the guy won the Heisman. Is that not right?
Yeah, won the Heisman, number 1 pick, won a national championship. So there's only a few guys that have won a Heisman, been the number 1 pick, and won the national championship. Joe Burrow, Jameis, and there's one other guy. I can't remember off the top of my head, but there's one other guy that's done it. But yeah, it's
Testaverde?
No.
Didn't he win the number 1 pick?
Not the same year. So he won the Heisman and he was number 1 pick, but he won the national championship the year before, not the one that he won the Heisman in.
Well, I mean, as far as Jameis goes, all he's got to do is play within the system. I mean, they are incredibly loaded. You know, if Thomas can play like he played in 19, he's going to get doubled, which is going to leave Landry in the slot wide open. You're going to have Olav running downfield every play, stretching the defense. Then, by the way, if you just forget about everything else and remember that Kamara slips out the backfield and runs a 5-yard out,
he could take it to the house.
I do not see anybody stopping this team. I'm friends with Todd Graffinini, who's the announcer for the Pelicans, and has been doing some Saints work. And I heard him on a program the other night, and he is the biggest Saints homer that you will ever meet. And I had to call him, and I was like, "Look, man, I was going to text this, and I was like, but I got to say it. I was like, this team wins it all this year." Like, and that's how I feel. And then he just erupted as he's done in Tulane calls and Pelicans calls and just went completely in for 10 minutes about why we are right. Because the defense is going to be better than it was last year, barring injury, like always in the league. You know, you have a better playmaker at strong safety in Tyron than what you had last year. In Jenkins was, you know, at the end, and you know, Tyron's 4 or 5 years from that, so he's still got, you know, 4 or 5 years that he can do it, and he's going to be doing it at home in front of his fans, in front of his family. Like, I really believe that the Landry Matthew deal is going to be huge for the fan base, and not to mention that they're both, you know, all pro caliber, you know, players. And yes, they are, you know, 10 years plus or right around that in the league. They still got a lot left in the tank.
Yeah.
Debo's playing like an absolute all-pro. Lattimore's going to do Lattimore things. I don't see this team being stopped. You know, they can 10-win us all they want. This is a 12-5 ball club at the basement. I really feel that way about it. I am a fan at heart. I can see nothing on this roster that scares me about what this team is capable of this year. And I really like Allen. Like, you know, I've loved him the last 5, 6, 7 years that he's been the DC. You know, that defense has been anchored, you know, with that guy at the helm. And he's another one of these process guys. And I just feel like they're going to be really, really good this year. And I can't wait for, is it September 9th? Or
11th,
September 11th. You know, to see them beat the shit out of Atlanta. You know, they might win 2 games this year. There's so much trouble over there in Atlanta, but
yeah,
it's going to be a lot of fun to watch, and I really feel like New Orleans has a shot to do some really special things. 1 year removed from Sean Payton, you know, leaving the helm.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
I mean, he absolutely built this program. I mean, I'm not going to act like he didn't. He put it in a place that's going to be real good. And I hope to God he does go somewhere next year so that we can get these draft picks.
That's right. I know.
What would suck is if he waited 3 years, you know, so 3 years removed from being it, and we don't get anything for it. And I don't know that he would do that to Mickey and them. I feel like he understands, you know, he didn't leave us in a pickle. But at the same time, you know, give back to the team that gave so much to you one last time on your way out the door. And go to the AFC. Do not come to the NFC. I do not want to have to deal with Sean Payton.
Yeah, and if he came to the NFC, it would probably be Dallas. Got rid of McCarthy, and he would go to Dallas. I mean, so the AFC team would probably be Miami, is who was wanting him. I don't know if that's still a thing or not, but who knows at this point. Yeah, I don't think he's done with coaching.
No, he's not done. There's no way. But I can say this now. I used to work for him, so
yeah, there you go.
You know, he's you know no longer a client, but cool guy, very professional, but liked his shit to work. So I made sure that it did.
All right, yeah, you've helped a good amount of popular people in New Orleans. So, all right, before we go, give us another plug on River City's Total Maintenance, good friend of
Yeah,
mine, but a great company too. So
yeah, no, and we work hard. We have a win-win-win philosophy here. We want the client to win, we want the technician to win, and we want the company to win. We feel like we do that. I feel like if you want to know anything about our company, the best place to go is to Google and look at the reviews. We have a little over 900 reviews, and you will see, the processes that we implement here translate to these homeowners' homes, and look, nobody's perfect when we make mistakes. The biggest thing that you have to do in the service industry is that whenever you make a mistake, you dominate taking care of those problems as quickly as possible. So, that's what we do. The owner tasks me with helping build the brand, but also keep the relationship with our clients, in a fashion that they know we are genuine and we are here to take care of their needs. We do not like people to sleep hot. And in the rare occurrence that happens, I bring portable units so that they don't have to sleep hot, because I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure my client is taken care of, 100% of the time.
awesome, bro. Well, I appreciate you coming on for the second time.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's a 2-for-1er tonight for you. Um, we'll have to do it again. We need to do it. We need to do it very soon. We're going to see each other for Florida State in New
absolutely.
Orleans. So we're going to be having some drinks. Maybe we'll do a little short episode, or maybe a 2-minute podcast at a bar or something like that.
That sounds good, brother. All you gotta do is call me, man. Anytime we get to hang out, I'm gonna enjoy it.
Awesome, bro. Well, I appreciate it. Guys, I appreciate you guys for tuning in tonight. Check us out, Spotify, Apple, YouTube. That's where you can find all of our podcasts. Also, social media. You got TikTok. We've been blowing it up on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all that. Go check us out and like and subscribe on our YouTube. We really appreciate that. Again, for Lucas, Charlie behind the scenes, I want to give everybody a big shout out. It's been One Team, One Podcast. Logging out.